There is a certain dietary pattern that for many years has been called the gold standard of longevity. It is believed to cleanse the body, bring a feeling of lightness, and protect us from the major diseases of modern civilization. Millions of people switch to it, believing that they are buying themselves a ticket to healthy aging. But here is what is interesting. Did you know that replacing just one meat patty with a serving of lentils reduces the risk of a heart attack by 11%? But there is a striking catch. If you replace a vegan cookie or an industrially produced bun with the same lentils, your heart will not even notice the difference. New data from the French NutriNet-Santé study of 2025 revealed surprising findings that may force you to reconsider the contents of your refrigerator. More than 63,000 participants took part in the study, of whom 24% were men and 76% were women. The mean age of participants at baseline was 51 years. The follow-up period was 9 years. The researchers extensively analyzed participants' diets and their impact on cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, the balance between plant and animal foods, their nutritional value, and their degree of processing. The authors used the following food categories: healthy, unprocessed. Foods in their natural original form: vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, as well as mushrooms, seaweed, eggs, and fresh milk in their natural state. Healthy, ultra-processed. Products with a relatively good composition, low sugar, salt, but subjected to deep industrial processing. These are foods that imitate health benefits: fortified soy yogurts, sugar-free vegan protein bars, or store-bought whole grain bread. Unhealthy, unprocessed. Foods without chemical additives but with a questionable reputation: potatoes, white rice, homemade fruit juices without added sugar. They are high in starch or fast sugars, a minus, but they have not undergone industrial processing. Unhealthy, ultra-processed. An aggressive cocktail of trans fats, excess salt, and a chemical alphabet. Flavor enhancers, color stabilizers, artificial flavorings, and sweeteners. These include alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages, sweet or salty snacks, chips, processed meat products, sweets, and fast food. Scientists calculated what happens if we change just 10% of our diet. The results turned out to be diametrically opposite depending on what is replaced with what. Minus 10–11% risk of developing cardiovascular disease. This result comes from replacing 10% of consumed foods from any animal products, whether steak or sausage, with healthy unprocessed plant foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains. Plus 25% risk. The probability of ischemic heart disease increases by exactly 25% if you add just 10% of ultra-processed meat, sausages, factory-made patties, pâtés, to your diet, and by 24% for cardiovascular disease overall. It sounds frightening. While natural plant foods reduce the risk of heart attack, adding just 10% of meat delicacies to the diet costs the body dearly. The risk of cardiovascular catastrophes increases by 24 to 25%. The most surprising finding of the study concerns substitution within the plant kingdom. We are used to thinking that replacing a cookie with an apple is always a win, but the numbers say otherwise. If participants replace 10% of ultra-processed plant foods, chips, sweets, buns, with healthy unprocessed ones, vegetables and fruits, no statistically significant improvement in vascular health was observed in this particular analysis. Why is that? Most likely, the destructive effect of sugar, trans fats, and additives is so strong that a small dose of vegetables cannot instantly neutralize it. For the heart to feel relief, it is necessary first of all to remove animal fats and heavy industrial processing. In the study we read, substituting 10% of energy intake from either of the two animal food groups, without ultra-processed foods, or with ultra-processed foods, with an equivalent amount of plant foods without ultra-processed foods was associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular and coronary heart diseases. The study clearly sets priorities. The strongest health-promoting effect comes from replacing animal products, both unprocessed and processed, with whole plant foods. Replaced boiled beef with beans? The risk of heart attack decreases. Replace sausage with lentils? The risk decreases even more. Replaced an industrial bun with an apple? Overall health improves, but the risk of major cardiovascular events over 9 years of follow-up did not change significantly. However, it is important to remember, if you decide to completely eliminate meat products from your diet, this must be approached thoughtfully. Transitioning to a plant-based diet is not just about giving up meat, but a complex restructuring of the entire nutrient intake system. Without competent compensation of critically important elements, such a step can become dangerous for health. How can the results of this study be explained? The problem is not calories, but the biological complexity of what we eat. A diet rich in minimally processed plant foods provides dietary fiber, which lowers cholesterol levels, improves glycemic control, and promotes satiety, helping with weight control. Plant foods are sources of antioxidants, vitamins such as C and E, minerals such as potassium and magnesium, and phytochemicals, including polyphenols and flavonoids, which together reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. Dietary fiber and phytosterols found, for example, in seeds and nuts, reduce the absorption of cholesterol and bile acids in the small intestine, causing the liver to more actively capture bad cholesterol from the blood, thereby lowering blood cholesterol levels. When gut bacteria process plant fiber, beneficial compounds are produced that improve blood sugar and lipid levels and support immunity. And together with natural plant nutrients and the absence of industrial additives, this reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. The harmful impact of a diet rich in unhealthy plant-based foods can be explained by several factors. These are calorie-dense foods with excess sugar, salt, and saturated fats, with additives that make them overly palatable, increasing taste appeal and provoking overeating. With additives that make them overly palatable, increasing taste appeal and provoking overeating, and they may also contain harmful substances formed during food processing or migrating from packaging. These factors, often associated with the processing of both animal and plant-based foods, may not be dangerous on their own, but become a problem when unhealthy processed foods begin to dominate and are not balanced by a sufficient amount of whole, healthy plant foods. In conclusion, if you really want to protect your heart, the formula from the study looks like this: balance, quality, minimal processing. Remove or minimize processed meats, sausages, frankfurters. This gives the fastest and strongest effect, plus 25% to cardiovascular disease risk is too high a price for a snack. Quality. Replace animal proteins with plant proteins in their whole form and vegetables instead of starch. Minimal processing. Food should resemble what it was in nature. Remember that vegan does not mean healthy. A cookie is still a cookie, even if it is made with coconut oil and without eggs. In simple terms, a cucumber and an apple protect your heart. A vegan burger and an industrial healthy bar with a long list of additives? Definitely not. For a healthy heart, it is important not just to remove meat, but to return to the table food that looks the way it grew in nature. Even if you choose ultra-processed foods because it is difficult to avoid them nowadays, at least let them have a decent composition. This will not save us from CVD, but it will not make things worse either. See you in the next video.